advertisement, Serigne Lo Dam is a healer and a fortune teller. Anything you want is available at this location. Your problem will be solved, God willing. Serigne Lo is very knowledgeable. He's not well known, but now he's doing well. The distance to his place is XXX, okay? And so, we could move. And so this is I'm building, I inherited this land from my grandmother long time ago, and since I was a student, I've tried to put something there. And my uncle, who is responsible for the construction, to whom I've been sending money, have been keeping all the expenses in Ajami, which I didn't know. So when I went last year, I was checking, what's going on, and he just pulled out his paper and showed me that everything that I sent was recorded in Ajami, to show you the different layers that Ajami is used, and it's not exclusively religious. You can move to the next. Here you have expenses. Cement, 3 tons. Sand truck, loads, brick makers, other expenses. Everything is documented in Ajami. The accounting is documented. In fact, the wealthiest people in Senegal who control the informal economy write in Ajami. So isn't that a contradiction? That the only way to develop Africa is to impose outside models, when local models actually work. The Murids are evidence of that. And so I think there's a need really to engage this form of literature, both in scholarship and in knowledge production about Africa. Now this one I like because of the myth that everything Ajami is religious. Now this is a warning sign, warning sign, clearly targeting people who are doing something bad in that area. And clearly, for this message to go through in that area, French would not do the job. English wouldn't do the job. It's Ajami that would do the job, because the people around there are Ajami users. Yet they're labeled as Francophone. Okay? On what basis? Okay. These are challenges that I think you can move to the next one. And this is something I've found in this summer that I didn't know about. There's just a lot of things I'm discovering myself. This summer we were documenting with WARA, cooperation with WARA and the work in Dakar. We secured some grant to digitize 5,000 pages of endangered Ajami materials of Kajor and Bawol. So we found this in central Senegal, in Bawol. This is now creating new project, and I was just talking to my sister who was telling me about the possible origin of the blue. But when you see this, what it tells you, it brings new area of research that we didn't know about, Ajami arts. Okay? You look at this, you think it's about religion. This is about hunting. Hunting, but the hunter here is used as a figure, hunters of Baraka. And how you can follow, and it says, you want me to read it? Let me read it. Koko nyamul nyamo ngeureum. Koko nyamul nyamo ngeureum. Yalla nanu yalla may ñu ñam ngeureum ba gis bepp ngeureum. Yalla nañu top fa rab ba aw ba gis fa mu taxaw laal ko mu ne fep ñu daldi andi sunu ndab duy ba mu fess a fess di lekki nak ak ngeureum di lakki yap di lakki yiw ak ngeureum. So maybe so he's taking the baraka. The baraka is perceived as an animal, and the hunter is seeking the animal. So the hunter is following the animal. The animal is the baraka. And as the hunter does, he hides and makes sure until he gets the animal. And then they bring a big plate. They filled the plate with baraka, and then they continue barbecuing night and day, enjoying grace and mercy. That's the end of the. And you find another art, Ajami art again, with equal value that Arabic or medieval European materials have value in knowledge production of their areas. Good move. Now this one I found, this is Mandinka. The ones I have shown so far were Wolof. This is Mandinka. Last summer I went to Ziguinchor, my hometown, and we had another project with a colleague of mine at Harvard. And so I stumbled across this manuscript that is actually cursing Adolf Hitler. Because apparently the person's students were being drafted by the French colonial system, because Sédhiou was a military, was a French post. And so he was very touched by that and decided to write. And cursing is very important, it's very potent and deadly in Mandinka society. So what you have here is a curse. It was his father who wrote it. So we found it from him. They call Hitler Ikiler. And he says in the name of, again, if you look at the beginning only, you may think this is about religious. This is a curse. Ikiler, the German, has brought evil to the world. May God take away all his evil. If he is assisted by powerful demons, may those demons be destroyed. If he is helped by his political skills, may those skills be lost for good. May God bring evil on him so that he may fear himself and his deeds. May God throw thunder on him so that, I couldn't read that, it was pretty fast. Okay, Hitler the German, no, you could go to the next one. Okay, that's fine. May he be betrayed by his own doctor. May he make him drink poison until he is unconscious. May the great angels destroy his planes and make them catch fire in the air and fall. And then now it's getting personal, talking about people who have been impacted in his community by Hitler's war. Okay? No young man is here now. You caused our people and our guests to run away. The first one to go away was Ajami. These are Senegambian names. Kamara, Maroon, and many others. Okay? As for Damfa, he is very worried. And this is very sad, because his wife is pregnant and his children can't walk. That's why he can't run. Okay? As for Kanjeme, he swept so hard, I felt sad for him. Evil is not good, Hitler. Hitler, may God destroy you inside your protecting building. Hitler, may you have the sickness of swelling belly and swelling genital. May you feel the pain and cry and die. Okay? Amen, amen. And then he says, may God fulfill our prayers. And then, just like the beginning and the end, you get doxologies that ground them spiritually. Okay? You get religious formulas. Okay? And then, may the human race be saved from Hitler. And he says, in the name of the prophet, and Sheikh Sadibou, whose curse is most feared. Okay? So, you get, these are local realities, local challenges, and their local approaches to address local problems. Okay. So Ajami has also, so that's just a flavor on Ajami in Africa, and this is just Senegambia. The point is Ajami, from Senegambia to the Horn of Africa, you find Ajami. From Hausa to Kanuri to Amharic to Harar, to wherever you have through that Sudanic belt, you have Ajami. Okay. Because of the historical presence of Islam prior to slavery, you also have presence of Ajami in parts of Americas. That's normal. And so what you have, there is evidence of the presence of educated and semi-educated African Muslim slaves in the 16th and the 17th century in several places. In Rio de Janeiro and Bahia in Brazil, in Jamaica, in Peru, Belize, Guyana, Bahama, and in Haiti, and Maryland in the Americas, as the book, Diouf's book, Sylviane Diouf's book, Servants to Allah, indicates. The Arabic literate, particularly who is very well known, Omar ibn Said, a slave in the Carolinas, suggests that Ajami may have been more widespread than has been acknowledged. So if Omar was literate in Arabic, he very probably could write in his own Fulfulde mother tongue. I mean, that's just, and I think the fundamental problem is, it has been assumed that any writing that cannot be read must be poor Arabic. I think that's the problem. And it's not poor Arabic. It's not poor, it's an African language. And I think that is room for PhD dissertations, if they're graduate students interested in master's, aspects that binds together Africa and Africans outside of Africa. Okay. In conclusion, understanding these Ajami materials will have invaluable scholarly and practical benefits. They would bring new resources essential to research and teaching on Islamic Africa's people, their histories and beliefs, and enable us to see the world and hear unfiltered voices of ordinary and learned Africans never accessed before. Okay. Understanding Ajami could increase access to and communication with millions of Ajami users and improve the work of educators, journalists, local and international NGOs, as my sister showed, in areas where Ajami is a primary means of written communication. Okay. Finally, the Ajami literatures of Africa demonstrate that the view of untamed and exotic Africa, with its stagnant cultures and jungles so dear to Tarzan, often portrayed in the media, is nowhere to be found but in illusions. I don't know that Africa, right? Well, thank you so much, and we're very happy to take some questions.
Okay, thank you, Fallou. Thank you, Ousseina and Erin. We have about 20-25 minutes for questions, discussions. Dr.
Africa's realities, which is only one part of African reality that is captured. So that, you know, the books that are written about Africa that are based on oral tradition is valid, but it only captures that part of Africa. And so to the Islamized areas, like my father, I just digitized. He was a tailor. He was not an educated person in the European terms. I digitized 900 pages of his documents, and I found that he protected our house. He kept just some medical, as I said, you know, the same way I'm doing with my family. And he documented all our lives. So if you want to know somebody like my dad, who is a good sample of the majority of Africans who have never been to the Portuguese school or the French school, you're going to have to be able to read this information so that the package is complete. And I think that is the reason why we're doing it. The second element, you mentioned European languages as replacing African language. They're not. And that's a myth. The myth of Portuguese speaking or French speaking or English speaking Africa is a myth. Who speaks French in Senegal? Who speaks Portuguese in Mozambique? Who speaks Portuguese in Guinea-Bissau? It's the elite. The majority speak what? They speak in Senegal, they speak Wolof, they speak Mandinka. In Guinea-Bissau, which is close to my Casamance, they speak Portuguese Creole, and they speak Balanta, Papel. So knowledge about Africa is constrained on the wrong premise, that is European languages, and then we're labeled Francophone Africa when the majority of people don't speak French. And I think that's really, this is the beginning of the battle. It's a major battle because it's a political problem, political battle really in Africa. It's easier for me to talk to you about this because you ask legitimate questions. You were concerned, you were not sure, but you ask genuine questions. It's a different ball game when I go to Africa. When I talked to the Minister of Education last summer, he cordially kicked us out of his office because he thought we would bring him back to the dinosaur ages. And that's just a different way of seeing the world. I don't think that we can continue to afford partial understanding of Africa that creates conflict. You know, I think it's just, you're going to have to understand, you know, how Africans see aspects of their own lives. And I think that's just it's a challenge, but maybe you're going to help us in Lusophone Africa. I understand that Mozambique has also Ajami, because, yes, I hear that Musa Biki may have some traces of Ajami. Maybe you will help us find
Thank you very much for writing comment, and which I appreciate, and your questions. I just want to give other examples about the question of language. As Brother Fallou said, it's a question of power relations. Japanese script and language, they're predominantly used in Japan. They are not the languages or script that are used worldwide. And yet Japan, or even China, and yet they are part of the modern technology. They impart their knowledge, they absorb other civilization cultures' knowledge, translate them into their script, and enter into conversation. Imagine all the majority of Africans who are marginalized, and because of language and script, who cannot enter into conversation with us here, the elite. Conversation about themselves. People are writing about them in a language and script into which they cannot respond back. Speaking back requires equality in the term of exchange. So script and language are very important. And I think if we take the case of China and Japan, we can see, even though it's that part of the world alone using those script and languages, they're still able to have a conversation with the rest of the world and not be behind. So for me, it's power relations. And then the question of law. I think Arab Islamic civilization brought the law to Western civilization historically. Arab Islamic civilization brought the notion of the university and discipline within the university. And I think I have my senior colleague, Professor Suleiman Nyang, who could elaborate more on that. The concept of the university comes from Islamic tradition. So what happens is now the lagging behind is when societies become close themselves, then they cannot flourish. Even if they were initiators of knowledge. So with regard to Southern Africa, I just mentioned how, for instance, Islam, we have to take into account the coastal, all the way to Malawi, going all the way to the south, and I talk about the diversity of Islams within Africa. From North Africa to West Africa and East Africa, all the way to Southern Africa, like Brother Fallou mentioned the Cape Malay or Afrikaan being written in the Ajami script. So it's important for us to engage that. And the notion that, for instance, in Niger, many of the traders, the informal economy, they are participating in the economic well-being of the nation, but not through French language. So why marginalized? What is Africa gaining by silencing this other important constituency who is contributing to the well-being of society? We have to rethink that.
Over toward the end there due to a lack of time, which is tying in some of my observations about Sunnite women in Senegal to the experience of migration and transnational families in the United States. There is an important, not only Senegalese Sunnite, as Senegalese reformist Muslims refer to themselves, a Senegalese Sunnite presence in West African immigrant communities here in the United States, but also of young women who have joined reformist movements, who come from Guinea, who come from Mali and other places. In the work that I do in New York City, young Sunnite women come to the United States in typically two fashions. One is they marry a Sunnite man who is already here, who is looking for a woman who adheres to his religious ideals, who is also coming from Senegal. A number of these men meet these young women through video cassettes of marriages, baptisms, noticing someone for the first time that way, or asking for referrals from mosques back home. Other Senegalese Sunnite women arrive in the United States because they marry African American men who have converted to Islam, whose mosques have sister relationships with mosques in Senegal, in Dakar. And I have known several women who have come by that venue as well. Like the Senegalese Sunnite population, the Sunnite community in the United States has a higher prevalence of divorce than I would have hypothesized when I started the research 12 years ago, given the movement's idealization of a woman's duties and the fulfillment of her duties within marriage. I would say about a quarter of the Sunnite women I work with in New York are divorced. They work to support themselves. They work as cab dispatchers, some all night. Some of them live in the Bronx and leave home at 5 or 6 p.m. and work all evening and into the early morning as cab dispatchers. They work with hair braiders, as long as they are not using artificial hair or attaching artificial hair. Sometimes they work in home-based salons that are only for other Sunnite women.